of the very difficult 2020 year of 2020.
Yep. And
Music kept us going. There was no live concerts, unfortunately, for most of the year. We got some quality interviews in because a lot of people were just sitting at home waiting for, looking for stuff to do.
Yep.
We got some scoops this year because people were recording and they were, kind of interviewed them while they were doing the recording process. We had lots of live streams, so we were helping promote the live streams to get the live music out there. Mm-hmm. So even though it was a challenging year and we didn't get to meet as many as we'd liked, we still had quite a success and quite an eventful year on the Metal Voice.
And you know what, Alan? It's all about this. You ready for it? There it is.
Oh, no.
There it is, Alan.
He loves that.
He's
crazy about that nut.
It's all about the nut. The Oscars have their little man, right? The Grammys have that record player. And what do we got?
We've got the nut.
We got the nut. It's all about the nut. Who's going to take home the nut tonight?
So here we are.
It's electrifying the evening, Alan.
We tried. Yeah,
got my suit on. Look, Saxon. When I flip my tie, got this. Look at this. Boom. Like that.
Blah, 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 blah.
All right. Greetings from Houston. Greetings. Hi, guys. What's up, guys? Jimmy's still on hold with Pure later. Yes, I am. Donna, hello, guys. Best wishes from UK. Klaus is saying, well, hello there. All right, here we go. We have a hell of a show today, Alan. Not only are we going to do our top 10, we got Neil Turbin coming up at the end. Neil Turbin, our friend. And
our West Coast correspondent.
Yep, and I'm going to do some graphics. And I think we're going to start off the show with a dedication, and I'll let you do the dedication there, and I'll put up on the screen the picture of Claude. I'm sure
I just want to dedicate this show to very, very tragic news. One of my best friends from the past 30 years and more, unfortunately, passed away, and I just want to dedicate the show to him. It's a tough time for me and a lot of his friends, and I want to dedicate the show. What picture you got up there? I mean, Claude was always the guy that when he always had an extra ticket to a concert, to call him up. Hey, you want to come? And within 15 minutes he was there. He loved music, a big supporter of the show. Always joked that we never included Lita Ford in the greatest female singers. He teased me that ever since that show was launched almost a decade ago, and he's still teasing me. Hey, what do you mean you couldn't put Lita Ford on there? You had to have Lita Ford on there. And he did the camera work on the Killer Dwarf show. And I think one of the pictures there is from the concert when we interviewed Russ and Daryl Dwarf. So
yeah, there you go. And sadly, it was just not even a week, right? It was not even a week ago, was it?
Yeah, I got the phone call about a week ago. Yeah, I think it was a week ago today. So
yeah, a sweetheart of a guy, great guy, a metalhead, and just an all-around great person. And it was tragic. It was just so sudden and tragic.
Yeah, we're still all in a little bit of shock. So,
all right, to Claude. All right, I also have another guest that I want to bring on today because we always start the show off with in memory of the fallen, and there was a lot this year, right? So I'm going to bring on Alex Kouvaris. He's the son of Lou Kouvaris, and let me just bring him on now. And I guess we're going to have to get him on. Alex, you there?
He's connecting to audio.
Alex, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Alex,
you can see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
See you fine.
Excellent.
All right. So, we do this top 10 show, Alex, and I show you the big nut.
Yes. That's a great piece.
It's the big nut. And not only do we talk about, the cool albums of the year, but we also talk about, a little bit about the year and the sad passings. And I want to have you on because of two things. Number one, your dad passed away due to COVID-19, which is the theme of the year, right? And
Absolutely.
Number two, go ahead. And number two is because your dedication to your dad. So feel free to say a few words.
Sure. Jimmy, as you've stated, unfortunately, my father did pass away in late March from COVID-19, where he resided in Long Island, New York. It was when when New York was becoming a real hot spot. I don't think anyone really knew what was going on. They really didn't know how to treat it yet. And it was a big impact to a lot of people. And it just so happened to target my dad, whether he was out at the store or someone from work, a customer. Those kind of details will always be unknown. But my dad was a one-of-a-kind guy, incredible human being, extremely talented. Many of the viewers will know, Jimmy, especially in his Riot days and in Riot Act. Not long ago, my dad was ready to do great things, do big things. And I was so excited and so happy, and I was so proud. I mean, he would say the name Riot Act and he would just glow. And, life can be very cruel, and he was taken away from us too soon. So with that being said, with COVID, he wasn't able to have a funeral, wake or a funeral. No one could see him in the hospital. I had to say goodbye to him through a video call, a FaceTime call, and which I will forever be grateful of that technology. If it was any other time prior to now, I don't know if I'd ever be able to see him. So long story short, the band, my band, Quiet Like a Thief, we had to do something in honor of him. It just had to be done. So I wrote a song for my dad. It's titled LAK. It's his initials. It's available everywhere to stream and to download. And at the same time, we released an incredible music video. We worked with some really reputable people, Yeah Films and Ryland offices out of New York. And we just had this vision, and they did a stellar job making it come true. They really brought our vision to our eyes. And I think if my dad's looking down, he'd be very proud. And yeah, that's what I have to say about everything.
And I've heard the song. It's excellent. It's sort of like a pop punk, right? And
right.
It depresses me when I listen to it. I hate to say it. It's bittersweet. I love the song. I think it's great. It's catchy. And I watch it and it's very depressing. But
when I read the lyrics, the lyrics are fantastic. I mean, you nail it home. If anybody thinks this COVID is a joke, read these lyrics, because it's the saddest thing you'll ever read. I mean, but it had to be done. I'm glad you made that video.
It had to be done. It really did. It's shocking, we have people out there that don't think this thing is real, and it's fine if it doesn't affect you personally, but there are millions of people that are affected by this. And I mean, how could you use such energy and use so much energy to talk about or promote something that wasn't real? I mean, like you said, the lyrics, I mean, it's from the heart. It was truly from the heart. Waking up in the morning, 6 a.m., getting that phone call from the hospital. I mean, my dad was in great shape. He lost a bunch of weight, was going to the gym, and this thing hit him like a ton of bricks. I mean, he could barely talk. He could barely breathe. And I hope many people out there who have suffered a loss or who have experienced anything related to COVID or even just loss in general. Lyrics in the chorus say, I wish that you were still here. I wish I could laugh with you. I wish I could still talk to you. I really hope it provides some sort of comfort to everyone out there that has gone through any sort of loss. And although depressing, I think it is a good song. I think it means well, and I think it's going to continue to touch a lot of people in many ways. So
you're basically, you're doing this continuation for your dad. The talent is now going to the next generation, and that's what I want to have you on. I want people to listen to it.
Absolutely.
I want people to recognize your talent, and especially I want people to remember Lou Kouvaris. So I think that's the most important thing. He was a friend of mine. And talking to you, Alex, when I do talk to you here and there, I feel like I'm talking to Lou. So
It's funny you say that. You know, it's a bittersweet moment, Jimmy. I've always been a viewer. I've watched your show many times with my dad on the other end on the camera, and here I am on the camera, and it's weird. It in a good way. It feels like he's here with me. It feels like my dad's gonna come onto the screen at any minute. You know.
Yeah.
And Lou had the chance. I mean, not too many people get a chance to relive their boyhood dreams a second time, and he was lining up to do that with Riot Act, and that's why I thank you for the video. I mean, I was extremely touched by it. Reading the lyrics, I mean, you can't help but tear up. But it needs to be said, and people need to see this video and hear these words. So.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you guys, you know, giving me an opportunity to speak. And like you said, this is for my dad. This was all about my dad.
And at the end of the video, you can actually see Lou's guitar right at the end there. You see Lou's guitar, which is pretty cool. So really well-made video. Congratulations. And I really hope you all, you know, give you all the success in the world. And of course, a great way to always remember Lou, you know.
Always.
Alex, we're going to let you go because we got a hell of a show, and thank you so much.
Keep watching, Alex.
I will. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night, and I hope we meet again soon.
Of course we will. All right. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Well, who else? There was a tough year right across the board. I mean, we did some shows. We had Rick Ventura on to talk about Lou. That was a tough time. You had Lee Kerslake.
I think the biggest one, Alan, is Neil Peart. Okay, here we are, like the beginning of the year, January 7th. I'm getting these texts. You send me a text. Everybody send me texts. Neil Peart died. Neil Peart died. It's like just right out of that's how we started our year, Alan.
Yeah. And then we found out, you know, interviewing Andy Curran from Coney Hatch, that you know, the inner core knew, right, but they respected his wishes, and that's why everybody was so shocked at that point. Also, right, it was unexpected. Lee Kerslake, who you know, we had helped with the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame to get those gold records finally that he contributed to, and he was able to go to the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame and be inducted there, even though he was in poor health. And that was another sad one.
Sad, but I got to say something. So from the moment he said that he was sick and he was dying, he had 8 months to live, he actually lived maybe 2 years from that point. So this guy was a beast. This guy was a beast. He would not, I thought he was never going to die. Like, I honest to God, he was a beast. And he had all the drive and energy, and you know, sad. It's just so sad. But I'm happy the Metal Hall of Fame recognized him, got him his plaques. Congratulations, Pat Gesualdo, for making that happen. And rest in peace, Lee Kerslake.
And Ken Hensley, who was in Urea here, he with him, recently passed away. That's another sad one. Yeah. Frankie Benali, it was a sad show. You know, we had Chris Holmes on. Jimmy Waldo, I think, was part of that show as well, and it was just a sad day. I mean, you're talking about a beast of a drummer, Frankie Benali, and then Martin Birch, who was a producer. Everything. I mean, I can go over here and pull out about 15 albums off the top of my head, and then Martin Birch's name is going to be written all over them, right? So, from Rainbow to Black Sabbath to, of course, all the Iron Maiden, and then. Pardon?
Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah. And then we got Eddie Van Halen, right?
That was probably the biggest blow. The biggest blow.
So, and again, it's like my friend the Stiff Rod said, right? It's when your musical heroes are passing away. Well, we kind of expect that because they're older and we've been listening to them for years and years. But you know, when a good friend of your same age passes away, it's just a lot harder to take sometimes. So.
Yeah. So true. Eddie Van Halen it's sort of like everyone's hero, and you know, crossing all genres, man, woman, different age groups, generational. I mean, he was the Jimi Hendrix of our generation, right? And I mean, we did a whole show on that. I mean, it's just October the 6th.
But did 3 shows actually.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, people just wanted to hear more and more about his life, and that's what we did.
A great show with Chris Holmes, by the way, because he was a boy for a friend of Eddie and early on in their career. So it was great to hear those stories and his perspective. So
yeah, what happened this year in terms of concerts? I can remember I saw Ross the Boss, I saw Sons of Apollo, I went to NAMM Metal Hall of Fame. That was the beginning of the year, and then everything just shut down. How many shows did you see this year?
It's all a blur, Jim. I don't know when I saw what anymore. I mean, I know we saw Demons and Wizards, but I think that was last year. That was last year. That's
right. That's right.
I don't know if I got any squeezed in early on this year. So.
All right. So, you know what? Let's begin, Alan. Let's turn the negatives into positives.
Yep. Let's go. We got some, again,
so here's the ground rules.
Big important.
Here's the ground rules. You ready for the ground rules?
Okay. Let's go.
The ground rules are this. Everybody thinks it's going to be like 1 to 10. Since we can't decide on anything, me and Alan, we're going to have your top 5 and my top 5. So we'll count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah,
and at the end, we're going to bring Neil. He's going to give us his favorite album of the year. All right, we're going to start off with you, Alan, and I'm going to put the graphics on.
All right.
You ready to go?
All right. I hope you got this in the good order.
5. We'll see. We'll see. better tell me the name of the album first, and then we'll see if the
Hey, I mean, we had this is Striper, Even the Devil Believes. Mm-hmm. So hopefully Jimmy's in sync with me.
I'm in sync with you. We're good.
Hey, man, from the opening scream and to the guitars throughout this album, it's a beast of an album. I mean, we know Michael Sweet could sing. We know that, Oz Fox and Michael in particular could play guitar, but they've gone to another level on this album. We were lucky enough to have Michael on the day of the launch of this album. Yeah. It was a great interview, as always. Friend of the show. A regular guest. I mean, I think if we go back over time, he's probably the one that's been on the show one of the most. And it's just Striper. I mean, their albums since they reformed, they've always been strong. And again, I think this is strong enough to make my top 5 for sure, just based on the crazy guitar work. So
that's Alan's number 5. It's Striper, and it was actually, there was a lot of bleeding back and forth. Like, I mean, that would have been on my list, which would have been on your list. So there's a lot of common ground there.
You've been flip-flopping. I don't know what your list is. You've been flip-flopping for the past 3 weeks. So I'm anxious to hear your list as well, Jim.
All right, here we go. Number 5 for me, Titans of Creation. That was April the 3rd, their 13th studio album, top-notch production. These guys are getting better with age. And I would say, Alan, this is the soundtrack to the pandemic.
So it's Testament, right? Let's say who it is.
Testament, Titans of Creation, is the soundtrack to the pandemic. I spoke to Chuck Billy, oh boy, when the album was being released, either a little bit before, and he just got over the COVID, right?
Oh.
Him and his wife. And remember that? Death Angel and Testament, they all were sick, and the drummer of Death Angel was hospitalized. So to me, that album, I think of the pandemic. And it's, God, these guys, consistency. That's what it is with Testament. Consistency. And it's hard to be consistent and sound so great in the thrash genre. Right,
well, when you sent me your original list, I go, what do you mean, Jim? You didn't put Testament? I know how big of a fan you are. You're a huge fan. Didn't make your list. And that's another one I forgot. So again, I'm anxious to see your list because I know you had probably about 20 bands you wanted to squeeze into 5. So,
all right, graphics are working good so far.
Okay,
check.
All right.
We're
going to number 4. All right, for me, number 4. I always like to slip in a melodic group. Melodic rock. And early on this year, it was released early in the year. I think it was January. Revolution Saints Rise. So I've been listening to it all year long. It's just a great album. I mean, Dean's singing is fantastic. Doug Aldrich, of course, his guitar playing is. he's one of the best guitarists out there. So, and then Jack Blades, who's doing singing as well. He's got a great voice. I'm glad to see that he's got a few songs on the album. And again, I think it's a stronger album than the first, and I've been listening to it all year. It's a great album that I enjoy thoroughly. And Doug Aldridge and Dean's interview when they were here with the Dead Daisies years ago is still, I think, one of the highlights.
We had a good time, didn't we?
Yeah,
we had a great time.
It's the only time a band thanked you and I more for interviewing them than us thanking them for being on the show. So two great guys, and it's one of my favorite interviews ever. So. Yeah. So I'm glad
it sounds like Journey. For those people who don't know this, it sounds like a pop. Not pop. A melodic hard rock Journey. As a sound. Don't you find?
I mean, Dean's been part of. He's been part of so many bands, including Journey. Yeah. And now he's the lead singer drummer. So
he's incredible voice.
Some really strong songs on the album. So.
All right, here we go. Number 4 for me, Alan. I know you're kind of saying, Jimmy, what are you doing? I don't know what you're doing. A lot of people might love me. A lot of people might hate me for saying this, but it's Cloven Hoof, The Age of Steel. And I got to say, and I'll give you a little background on this, Alan, and you're probably saying, Jimmy, why is Jimmy picking Cloven Hoof? Cloven Hoof has been one of my favorite bands since 1984, and I'll give you the quick story. I might have told you this before. I was a little young punk in Greece because I used to hang out, in Greece over the summer holidays.
Hello,
over the summer holidays, I used to live in Greece with my parents, and in a small little town, there was a record store, and there was like a metal section in this small little town. And then I couldn't afford anything, so the sales lady goes, "Here, for 3,000 drachmas, you can buy this tape, and it has a mix of all different new wave of British heavy metal bands, and Cloven Hoof was one of them." That's how I got into the band. Incredible new album. It's just a wall of sound. Yeah, there's an Iron Maiden thing there. Yes, there is they've always had that twin guitar, that soaring power metal vocals, but you know what? It's a damn good album with some great songs, and they deserve to be there and recognized for all the great albums they'd have over the years. That's it.
I thought it was Bruce Dickinson. I thought that's what he's doing when he wasn't recording with Maiden. He decided to do a Cloven Hoof album. I mean, he's listening to it. Hey, some similarities there. So
if you like Maiden, if you love the twin guitar attack, then Cloven Hoof, The Age of Steel is for you. All right, next. Let's hope we get this one right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, go. Number 3 for Alan.
Number 3, I'm going with Leaves' Eyes, The Last Viking.
All right.
Okay, so we're still in the sync. That's good. No, again, a band that should have been on our show, could have made a lot of the lists in the past. I'm glad I'm able to squeeze them in here today. Great songs. They've always had this Beauty and the Beast kind of feel to them, right? She sings like an angel. He comes on with the gruff death metal vocals. And again, being, there's a great video, a documentary about Viking reenactments. And the song itself, The Last Viking, over 10 minutes of just a really classic sounding Leaves' Eyes. Flames in the Sky and Circland are also some of my personal favorites off of this album. So again, they've switched the female singer parts over the years, but this is a very strong album, great videos. And I thoroughly enjoyed this album. So,
all right. So here we go. You ready for it, everybody? I know everybody's waiting for this one. This is my number 3. What is it, Alan? What is it? Where's that album?
I don't know. You keep changing your list.
What album is it, Alan? Who will take home the prize today? But anyways, the album is none other than AC/DC. Here's the graphics. Power Up. Yeah. Here we go.
Another one late came in late in the year.
Yep. 16th international release, 17th release, and a return of Brian Johnson, Phil Rudd, Cliff Williams, and sadly, the album without Malcolm Young, which is
comeback album of the year. We did a whole show on it recently. It also made my list, so I'm glad we were able to get it on our combined top 10 list.
We believe,
the more I listen to it, and again, there's different types of production on it. There's different types of, they're trying to you got the classic AC/DC sound, but a few songs have a new twist to them. So that's nice to see. And the whole album's dedicated to the memory of Malcolm. So
revitalized, angry, a little more energy, and some nice quality tunes. Would you summarize it like that?
Yeah, it's classic AC/DC, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They can do no wrong in my eyes.
Yep. All right. So now we're gonna go to your number 2, Alan. You ready?
Yeah, this one, I was just impressed when I heard it. UDO, We Are One. So they've done this with the Philharmonic Orchestra. And, lots of times, Jim, when they get an orchestra, they're like, the orchestra kind of doubles the bass part, or it's not really. This songs were written for him in mind, UDO group, and the Philharmonic. So it was really written like that. It wasn't redoing songs with an orchestra. It was written together. And it's just a thoroughly interesting album to listen to. I mean, you got Neon Diamonds. It's a great track. It's actually got a sax solo in it. You got Beyond Gravity. It's got like that Celtic feel, kind of some bagpipes happening. And then you even have Here We Go Again, where Udo is a rap star. I mean, he's even rapping in that. He's got kind of this big band beat happening in the background. So again, it's just, I liked everything he's done in recent years. His Navy Night is another one with orchestra that could have made it years ago. And I'm glad this one is in there. It's a very hard album to beat. It's a strong album, and UDO, We Are One, is coming in at number 2 on my list.
All right, here's number 2 from my list. And I was going back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. So this is what I finally came up with. After listening to these albums all week and sending Alan texts back and forth, it's Demons and Wizards.
Oh, you did go with them after all, yeah. Okay,
here you go.
Jim.
Hans, when you take Blind Guardian and you mix it with Iced Earth, this is what you get. I would call this album a deep track album.
What would you call
it is 3. Yeah, it's called 3. The deep track album. The whole album, it's proggy, it's progressive. The production is fantastic. There's a lot of care put into these songs. This is not just crank them out and just throw them out there. A lot of care, a lot of great vocals, a lot of great riffs, a lot of great time changes. A very proggy metal album for me. Because of the hard work that was put into this, that's why I had to put it on my list. I just had to put it on, and I want the world to see this, to recognize it, and accept it as number 2.
Jim, if I was allowed to have a number 6, that was going to be my number 6 for sure. I mean, and again, we got to meet John and Hansi and interview them before the show. That show, this is the 3rd album, right? Yeah. And we were laughing how the queue for the show was starting at like 2:00 in the afternoon for a 9:00 show. So, and they only had 2 albums out. So I can understand now. Hats off to all those people, and we enjoyed the show as well. Man, my eyes are open now. I'm a fan. I understand what's going on. It took me all these years, but like you said, maybe this album is stronger than the other ones, but it just affected me a lot stronger than some of the other albums. And John Schaefer is one of the greatest guys I was ever had the pleasure to interview. I mean, he's at the top of the list. And so Hansi's always got a smile on his face. He's a great guy. And I know you've got this kind of special connection with Hansi. I don't know why, but it goes back to our festivals at Heavy MPL years ago. So
I think because I had him once on live, and it all went to shit. And he never stopped laughing ever since. All right, this is the part of the show. Me and Alan, we got 1 album left as our top album of the year. Again, The Walnut. Who will take home the walnut? There's 2 of them, and you know the history behind this, right, Alan? It was in ancient Athens. There was 3 of them: 1 to Canada, 1 to Germany, 1 to Brazil. And there's only 3 of them in the world. That's the history. But I'm going to bring in Neil Turbin now. Here we go.
Hi, Neil. Yeah, always a pleasure.
Let's see if we can connect to Neil. We were supposed to do some audio checks before. There's them. Oh, look at that! Look at that.
Neil is connecting to audio as well.
Neil Turbin.
Now we've got him.
Neil, what's going on? Look at that. Nice. Good job. So what do you got going there? Sing with...
Hey, man, just hanging out. Got got a new background, you know.
So what's going on? Tell me what's happening on the 19th of December.
Vocal firepower.
Yeah, that's my vocal training course that I do this year.
All right.
Yes, we got some great albums in 2020 that are exciting to have heard and checked out, and I'm sure you guys have talked about some of the ones that most people know about.
Yeah, we went
I'm
through the whole
anxious, I'm
list.
anxious to hear your list, Neil. I'm sure there's a few surprises on there.
So Neil, we did all our albums except for one. So me and Alan have our top album of the year.
Our
So
number
you tell
ones
us,
each we have not launched.
the mic is yours. You tell us about your top picks there.
Well, thank you, Jimmy and Alan, and happy holidays to everyone out there in lockdown land. Hopefully everyone's doing well and hanging in there. All my best to you. Just wanted to say that there's I like the list that you guys had, and I was aware of it ahead of time, so I'm just kind of looking at some notes. I think that one of the albums that is I'll just go in a reverse, because that's kind of
you know, Neil, you know what I'm really happy about? You're wearing a suit like us.
Well, you know, I didn't want to be
big
like,
event.
I didn't want to just have a cool
See, look at this. Like,
I
we're all
have
dressed up. Once a year, we got to dress up.
yeah, I got a cool t-shirt underneath, but I'll save it for later. So anyway, I think you know, some of the bands that don't always get to have the love or the attention are some of these standout bands that, you know, maybe they're not the AC/DCs of the world, but of course, you know, AC/DC, it's a band that everybody knows about, everybody is aware of, and it's a comeback of the year. I mean, without a doubt, that's going to be on everyone's top 10. And I think, you know, without a question, AC/DC is a top band. They're number 3 on my list, and for top 5. And I just wanted to also mention, there was a release that came out in 2019 that was by AC/DC. It was like a box set or a bunch of live concerts. Have you guys heard of On the Highway to Hell?
Okay,
that was
last year.
I know, but that one was with Bon Scott and with Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
And it's like right during the Highway to Hell and Back in Black radio shows and tour and so forth. So King Biscuit Flower Hour. So I was amazed. And if it was a 2020 album, that would have been, people would have said, why did you pick that AC/DC album? But that would have been probably at the very top, because it's unbelievable.
There you
but
go.
The AC/DC album, Power Up, I mean, they're back in form. AC/DC is an undeniable force to be reckoned with, and they sound great. And it's just a blessing to have them put out an album during, you know, all that's been going on. So it's an uplifting thing for metal and for music. And it's nice to see something then, you know, caca poo poo in the Billboard top 10, you know. It's a lot of caca poo poo that's mostly in there, but when we get something like AC/DC, thank goodness for AC/DC and for the you know, for Young and company. I just wanted to say that another band that's a legacy band that is definitely, it's even above the AC/DC in my opinion, is the Thin Lizzy Rock Legends.
That's not a 2018 release now, is it?
No, that's a 2020 release.
Okay.
Great.
And Alan probably had a chance to look into that one. And there's some
right when you told me about it, when we did the AC/DC review, I started looking at it, trying to shop it and try to find it. So yeah, big Thin Lizzy fan.
They only want a few $100s for it, you know, a little steep, but
yeah, it was a little steep, I have to admit.
But it's you know, phenomenal set of music material. I was looking for, when I interviewed Scott Gorham for the Metal Voice back in his hotel room when they were touring with Priest back on that tour.
Great interview.
You know, thank you. That was, Scott had mentioned to me that, or he mentioned in the interview that, you know, there was this G.I. Joe song, and that was, you know, The Boys Are Back in Town before it was named that. So I was hoping that was going to be on that release. It wasn't, but there's so many beautiful songs and gems. And I mean, of course, Phil Lynott was a true poet and a true artist, and through different, you know, decades of interest, you know, practically the 60s, the early 70s, you know, just, and then of course the 80s, and just a phenomenal writer, and just to get to hear, you know, the whole side of that from Phil and some of these unreleased demos, which were actually could have been on albums. I mean, they definitely were high level. So I wanted to mention that. So these are the mainstream bands, or bands that people should recognize, but then there's bands that I feel are given less recognition. And I'll just mention two bands that are absolutely worth recognizing, and also my top pick.
So, Neil's Dark Horses. Here we go. Neil's Dark Horses.
That's right. put your money down on the dark horses. So there's a band that's out of Sweden, and you may have heard. I mean, it's a number of musicians involved. It's kind of like one of these collaborative musical things out of Sweden, and it's a friend of mine, Johnny Lindquist, who is the singer from the band Nocturnal Rites, and a phenomenal singer, great guy. And he came out. He's one of the singers and one of the people involved with Gathering of Kings. And if you like power metal or melodic heavy metal and great singing and great songs, they have an album called Discovery. I would check that one out. It's definitely something that got my attention. I mean, it sounds amazing, and it's, pretty much anything out of Sweden is going to get people's attention these days for melody. And then there's a band that's also worthy of mention that's been around for a while, and they just kept getting stronger and stronger. And they're also a Swedish band, surprise. And the band is called Ambush, and they have an album called Infidel. Another, very much in that Judas Priest, Iron Maiden-esque kind of sound or accept. But I think, they're coming into their own. I mean, a band evolves over time, and I think this band is definitely an exciting band to see live. I mean, they've been on festivals a lot, and they've, toured and come up with better albums after the other. And I think this one is definitely, one that's noteworthy. And that was number 5 on my list. But the number 1, here's a band.
There we go. All right, this is the number 1. Hold on.
A legacy. Where's the walnut?
Hold on, there's the walnut.
Hey, what you got in that? You said there's 3
I can't say what's in here. It's a
Jimmy,
top album.
there should be 3, Jimmy.
Look,
You
I'll
said there's
tease
only
everybody.
2. There should be 3.
Jimmy, is there really 3? Tell me that this is not in your walnut. A rubber ducky.
Rubber ducky's my bathtub.
My cat likes this. She feels real good when I show her this. So, what's in the walnut, though? What are you keeping there? Beer or something?
Well, strange enough, I don't want to say nothing. No, I'm not going to expose what's in the walnut. Go ahead.
Okay. So there's a band that I really think deserves a lot more attention. And there's these bands that have the YouTube singer sensation where they select their singer off of YouTube. I mean, we know that happened with Journey. We know it happened with other bands. And you have bands that got sound-alike kind of singers where they wanted to replace their singer, and they try to find a sound-alike singer. I don't know that you can,
like Joey Belladonna. Oops.
I know that you can try to find someone that can sing like Brad Delp from Boston, but that's good luck with that. And they didn't really find someone that sounded like Brad Delp. They found some good singers, but Brad Delp is in his own category, kind of like Freddie Mercury. How are you going to? Yeah. I liked it when they did the Paul Rodgers version of Queen. It was different, Queen and Paul Rodgers, but, he sang it his way. And that's because his range is different than Freddie Mercury. It's kind of like someone who's pitched way high and someone who's pitched a little bit under that. So both amazing singers and great artists. But I think that with that in mind, not to lose sight of the point here, that is getting a singer that really sounds like the singer you had in the band. And because people are used to it. And I think that's why people like the cover music so much. But I think there's also a point where a singer or a band should branch out, and they, like AC/DC, they should do something new. And that's why when we were reviewing the AC/DC album, we talked about those songs where you heard, Brian Johnson's voice in a lower pitch. It's like, who is that guy? Yep. Who's this other singer on the AC/DC album? It was Brian. It wasn't someone else. I didn't know. But that's the kind of thing I think that I want to bring to light. And I think that the album for me, that's album of the year, both in metal and in rock and in progressive, would be Kansas, The Absence of Presence.
Yep, it's true.
And they've got some songs. I mean, they have a large, a tall order to live up to. I mean, with Steve Walsh, who's an amazing singer, just like Brad Delp, just like Steve Perry, just like Bobby Kimball and Toto. I mean, these kind of singers that are just, radio gold. Yes. I would say that if you check out the song Animals on the Roof, I mean, this is a brilliant song, The Absence of Presence, Circus of Illusion. There's so many amazing, I mean, this is a band that's interesting and not unlike bands that I've experienced where you have the drummer who's running the show. I mean, it's his band. So it's kind of weird because it's like, okay, you have this amazing voice, this amazing front man, Ronnie Platt, and he's he plays keyboards extremely well. And he's like the second keyboard player or an additional keyboard player. and he stands in the background and plays. So it's an interesting configuration because it's not like the singer or the guitar player was driving the band. And you also lost one of the key songwriters back in the early days, Kerry Livgren, who's, he did some stuff with Dio at one point, some collaborative stuff, but such an amazing writer, a guy who wrote, on those first few albums and, some of the classic songs that we're all familiar with, Point of No Return, Carry On Wayward Son, Dust in the Wind, songs like that, and so on.
Classics.
I mean, you just can't, you want to, after you write songs like that, how do you stand up to that? That's a high level to jump up to. And I think with this new album, the songwriting is reminiscent. It does capture, it's truly the Kansas sound. It's fantastic. And, how many bands can say, hey, they're around in 2020 putting out albums, and they did this back in 1977 and they put out great albums then. They're still doing it on that same level. So I think that's one of the reasons that I thought Kansas was the band. And also, I've seen Kansas a few times. I saw them recently at the Orpheum Theater, and they did an acoustic and then they did an electric type of set, kind of a two for one set. And it was just phenomenal. I saw them before at the Will Train, but this was even better at the Orpheum. And, I wasn't expecting, like when I first heard this album, I listened to it and I heard, oh, why is Ronnie Platt trying to sound like Steve Wall so much? And I kind of put it down for a minute, but then I re-listened to it. And after the second go around, and so it was like, wow, there's really a lot more to this. And, sometimes we can be deceived by just playing it a first time, but listening through that, I mean, this is, you want to talk about, other bands that are worthy of mention, Sons of Apollo, some great bands out there. There's a long list of them, Dark Tranquility. I mean,
before we get there, Neil, before we do the honorable mentions, we got to do our last two albums.
Yes. But
then we'll throw out some honorable mentions.
But I just had to mention this, that people consider metal to be a lot of different things. Like if you say heavy metal or metal today, people are thinking, growling voice. They're not thinking of a melodic voice. They have a certain perception, or they might be thinking of new metal. So there is a lot of different aspects to metal, but I think as far as songwriting and the value of that, without a doubt, Kansas is a band that, people should not overlook. They should check them out. And if you get a chance to see them live, a phenomenal band too. So it's something to lift people's spirits up and something to look forward to. That's, Kansas is a class act. And I think during the holidays, it's a nice thing to discover some new music that is uplifting in that way.
All right. Great choice, Neil. I agree with you. A very overlooked, underrated band, at least today, right?
And I had to mention Diamond Head did a remade version of, Lightning to the Nations. It has 4 cover songs on it that they did a great job with. They actually covered Metallica. And I just talked with one of their management companies today. And that is a band that also worthy of mention, Diamond Head. And they're, I think they sold like 4,000 units of vinyl in their first week or pre-order. It's definitely a band. Also
we're going to bring it on home now. We're going to bring it on home. We're going to bring it. Alan?
No, I go first.
Okay, hold on a sec. Hold on. Okay, Alan,
what you got in that walnut?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Your number one pick, and hopefully everything will align here with the graphics.
This year,
Alan's number one pick of 2020. What is it?
Long Day, Good Night, Fate's Warning. Here's a band. I mean, they're hotter now than they ever were. I mean, Arch Mateus, 2 fantastic albums. I think one of them made my list last year or the year before. And I've been listening to this, and I mean, these guys are as strong as anything they released in the 80s or 90s. So that's great to see. Not a band that's influenced many others, but maybe they never got the success that they deserve. So all you have to do is take out The Longest Shadow of the Day. It's the longest song on the album. And this tells you everything about this band. It's a masterpiece, actually, that song. You got Joey Vera on bass. And you got our buddy on the drummers. They've always had strong drummers.
Gonzo.
Bobby Jarzambek on drums. But I mean, going back to Steve Zimmerman and the first albums, and then I think all the way through. Mark Zonder played on some of their albums. I mean, all the way through. I think they've always had great drummers in that band. So Jim Mateus is, I mean, he's a genius as far as I'm concerned. So,
all right. So there we go. And now we're ready for mine. Here's my last
Great
one.
band, face warning.
Again. And I'll actually take it out of the walnut because Alan's not here. I couldn't take his out. So
no, don't play with.
We can't even do the protocols here properly. Here it is. Taking it out of the walnut so everybody knows it's real. You see? You see? And what is it? It's Blue Oyster Cult. The symbol remains.
The
remains.
symbol
I'll put the
remains.
graphics up for everybody. The symbol remains. Let me just.
And Jim, is this
there.
like the heaviest thing they've ever done? Because just the first song alone is like
heaviest. You know, they've never been a truly heavy metal band. They've had heavy metal aspects to their music. I would call them a quirky, consistent band. You know, when you think of Godzilla, that's a heavy song, right? I'm Burning for You would be more of a pop song, but this album has all the elements of Blue Oyster Cult that all the cult lovers love. Man, it's just, I think the whole album, and I know Neil likes Blue Oyster Cult as well. It's just the whole album, consistent, varied, great singing, and now you have their new guitarist there singing. So the Bouchards aren't there, but you know what? They made up for it. 19 years since our last album, and and the quality, the production quality is fantastic. The songs are great, and it's just such an enjoyable listen. I haven't stopped listening to it since it's been released. So that's my top pick of 2020.
It goes back to what Neil was saying earlier, right? Back in the early 80s, you had like Plasmatics was considered heavy metal. Blue Oyster Cult was considered heavy metal. Now, probably a lot less. Kansas and Blue Oyster Cult. What are you talking about? This is called the metal voice, But back in the day, they were all kind of being lumped in together. So
yeah. So guys, a couple of honorable mentions. And David Reese, Cacophony of Souls. Like, David's like a friend. So it's difficult to say, I'm going to put David on the list. It just seems like I'm playing favoritism, even though I do believe that this is a great
nepotism.
album. Yeah. Fantastic album, Cacophony of Souls.
I could second that. That was one of my early favorites too when it came out. I think it's a super strong album. But hey, that's what I think I might have forgotten about that one, Jeff.
Eric Clayton, which he was on my top 5 list. 1,000 Scars. It's sort of like David Bowie and metal, but at the end of the day, me and Alan kind of decided, it's not metal, but it's an enjoyable doom-like album. I mean, sort of like David Bowie on steroids. So I just thought Eric Clayton, who's from Savior Machine, from California, by the way, Neil, and now in Germany. And I think another honorable mention would be Metal City by Raven. Another great band. If I had 10, then I would definitely put him on my 6.
But so you also had Armored Saint Punch in the Sky.
Yes.
What do you mean? You forgot that?
You know what? Yes. So I'll put the graphic on that. Armored Saint would probably have been my 6th as well, or 7th.
You got 3 6s now.
3 6s.
That's appropriate for the show.
Yes. Do you guys have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, go ahead, Neil.
But I'm gonna let Alan go first.
Well, I'm glad Demons and Wizards made your list because that was coming in number 6 on mine. And here's another Canadian band that I just absolutely adore, and I'm really sad that I couldn't get their album onto my top 10 today. But it's Unleash the Archers, a hot up and coming band out of Vancouver, and their album Abyss. There's a lot of different things on there that they're trying out, and it's a very mature album for them. And they're about to hit the big time, so I'm glad I'm able to put Unleash the Archers and Oz, a band from the '80s. We're going way back that have released some of their strongest albums, as far as I'm concerned, with Forced Commandments that came out earlier in the year. Again, it doesn't really sound a lot like the old Oz, but the music they're making today is really good, and that's one of my honorable mentions.
All right,
I have an interesting honorable mention for an artist who is, like a guitar music kind of artist. And, someone that's obviously can play anything, but their music is really, I think it's one of the most exciting guitar players out there right now. And he came out with an album. He's actually works with a company that I work with at NAMM, Blue Guitar, which I have, their amps. And I know he was doing the same show that I did. I wish I would have realized it at the time that I did it at NAMM earlier this year, because he was on the same bill. And he's working with the same companies, and very interesting. But the guy is very successful, and it's not Joe Bonamassa. It's not.
I know it is.
It's not my friend Taj Farrant, who's an amazing 11-year-old kid who shreds the hell out of the guitar in Australia. But it's a gentleman by the name, and a fantastic guitar player, great guitar player. His name is Eric Steckel.
Oh, I don't know Eric Steckel.
And he has an album that came out this year, and it was called Grandview Drive. And he is, I just happened to come across him online, and I was listening to, his playing, and I'm just like, wow, this is how I would play guitar if I could play better, one of those type of things. And just from a soloist standpoint, from an attack standpoint, and, he's like a rock and a blues and a metal guitar player, but just someone who, very interesting approach. And I know he was taken under the wing at a young age, by a very famous player of a band. So, it helped his career, but one of those people that early on, got recognized. But I just had to mention Eric because his playing is definitely off the chart. And, if people don't know about him, you should check out Eric Steckel, Grandview Drive.
What about your buddy Angelo Battillo? What's his name? With the
Michelangelo
Battillo, yeah.
Michael, I believe he has a release.
Yeah. He's got like the one with Nitro. Nitro's guitarist with 4 guitar decks, right?
Yeah, well, he's
a really nice guy.
Yeah, Michael's a busy man. He's busy with with Sawtooth.
Yeah, Sawtooth. That's what it was. Yeah.
And Chromacast, and I know Michael's busy. He's been out to California a lot and been doing a lot of live streaming, a lot of lessons online. So definitely you got to check out Michelangelo Batio always, because to play on Michael's level, you got to put in a lot of time, and a lot of perfect practice makes perfect. So I love Michael, and definitely check out what he's doing. I think he's doing it weekly, on Thursdays. I think he's on Facebook Live and doing a lot of live streams. But it's obviously hard for people who are used to playing live on tour constantly, and to not be doing that right now because of things that are going on. But phenomenal albums, and Eric Steckel, there's a few other bands I'm sure that I'm not thinking of at the moment, but I think these are some of the ones that don't make the mainstream charts. Like you have the typical ones, and also honorable mention, even without it being on my top 5 list. Not that it would have been on the top 10. Would have been Armored Saint, Punching the Sky.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Great album.
That was, again, like for me too, was sort of like hovering on.
It was on his list right up until today. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I kind of was listening to everything carefully, and I go, even though it's a great album, it would be like number 6 if I had 10.
But I just like to thank Neil for all his work and being on the show here today, because Neil captures exactly why this show was made to begin with. It's to educate, to bring in bands and talk about bands that people might not know about. And every time Neil's on, we learn something new and we discover new bands. So we're going to go check out Ambush from Sweden and everybody else that he's mentioned here today. And that's what this show has always been about, is discovering new bands and sharing our views with everybody out there. So
yeah,
so
that's why we always like Alan. We always like to sneak in a couple of those albums that kind of instead of going right, we're going left, and just sort of things that we loved during a year, not only that everybody loved. Right.
And I know you guys just interviewed Wolf Hoffman, but I just have to mention, The Undertaker and Wolf Accept, and Udo. I mean, both delivered excellent albums in 2020. And, Udo surprisingly had that reunion of people on his album, and it sounds great. It's definitely,
but Accept is in 2021, the official release date.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have to get back to you next year.
I heard a couple of songs, so I thought it came out this year.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Sounds good. All right. On that note,
we're
on the hour. We're on the hour. Everybody, thank you so much. We will put the walnut away.
Another year, Jimmy. We managed another one.
I'm going to call up the armored truck so they could put it, seal it.
Lock it away
Lock it away somewhere in the Northwest Territories in Canada. Lock it away until next year. And thank you, Neil.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. Thank you, Alan. And thank you, everyone, for watching The Metal Voice. and a little golden little nugget. There's also a Kansas live album from 1980 at the New York Palladium. Check that one out.
That'll go to our 1980 show, our top album, 1980s.
No,
Neil,
it's a
vocal
live
lessons.
album.
Vocal lessons.
Hammerfall also did a live album.
They did a live album in 2020.
And their playing is so excellent that anything that Hammerfall touches, I mean, live is golden. So I would definitely check that one out as well. So I just wanted to mention that. And there's probably more, but we don't have time for the whole catalog today.
All right, so sing.
Well, if we're
Neil.
talking live albums, I'm going to squeeze in Eclipse as well. It's as if you're listening to them in the studio. Those Swedish guys, like Neil said, what quality musicianship, and a really melodic band that I thoroughly love is Eclipse. And they came out with their live album.
And Iron Maiden actually came out with a live album as well, but
There
we
you go.
won't go there. Okay. Breathe, Fire, sing with vocal and power, vocalpower.com, Neil Turbin. If you want to take some vocal lessons, learn
Vocal
from
Firepower.
Vocal Firepower, learn from the best, Neil Turbin.
If you want to sing like Bruce Lee hits, that's the way we do it.
There you go.
All right, guys. Have yourself a wonderful